Welcome back to our channel World of Coins, the place where we uncover hidden treasures in your coin collection. Have you ever wondered if that old coins could be worth thousands or even millions? Well, today's your lucky day. We're diving into some of the rarest and most valuable US coins that might be sitting right under your nose. Let's jump in and see if you've got a fortune waiting to be discovered. Top 1. In the vast world of coin collecting, few pieces spark curiosity, wonder, and hidden treasure fantasies quite like the humble 1-cent coin. A small copper disc, passed from hand to hand in everyday life, can hold a secret so valuable it can change the course of a collector's life. One such fascinating example comes from the heart of American coinage, the Lincoln penny. And not just any Lincoln penny, but the elusive and mysterious version minted in the year 1968. Now, before you overlook that coin rattling in your piggy bank or tucked in a dusty old drawer, think again. Because that little penny might be far more than just a single cent. It could be a time capsule, a historical marker, and yes, possibly even a hidden fortune. While millions of these coins were minted, only a rare handful possessed the unique characteristics that turn them from common change into serious money. To understand the story of the 1968 Lincoln penny, we need to step back a bit. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, becoming the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. For decades, the design of the Lincoln cent stayed relatively unchanged. But the years leading up to and including 1968 were a period of subtle transitions in American coinage, especially in terms of mint marks, die variations, and material inconsistencies, all of which contribute to the coin's modern-day mystique. In 1968, the United States Mint produced Lincoln pennies in 3 different locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most coins minted in Philadelphia had no mint mark, while those from Denver carried a small D under the date, and San Francisco coins were marked with an S. While these differences might seem minor, they play a crucial role in identifying the truly rare specimens. But the real intrigue begins when we talk about minting errors, die misalignments, and double die obverse coins, rare variants that can multiply the value of the penny beyond imagination. Imagine stumbling upon a 1968 penny with clear doubling on Lincoln's face or the inscriptions, a mistake so slight most people wouldn't even notice it. But to a trained eye, it's the jackpot. These kinds of errors don't happen often, but when they do, they create numismatic gems that collectors will pay thousands to own. Some of these coins have missing mint marks, an error that's both rare and sought after. Others may have been struck on foreign planchets, blank discs meant for other denominations or countries. These are the mistakes that make ordinary pennies incredibly rare. It's not just about mistakes, though. Sometimes, the condition of the coin itself is enough to send its value skyrocketing. Coins that have never been circulated, known as uncirculated or mint state coins, retain the full shine and luster from the moment they were struck. When a 1968 penny is found in such flawless condition, especially if it also has a rare error, it becomes a treasure like no other. The grading of coins, determined by institutions like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, uses a scale up to 70. The closer to 70, the higher the value. And when a 1968 penny nears the top of that scale, it's a rare prize indeed. Collectors and investors alike are always on the lookout for these special finds. The 1968 Lincoln penny is no longer just pocket change, it's become a symbol of discovery. People have found them in old collections, coin rolls from banks, estate sales, and even at flea markets. Each story adds to the legend of this modest coin that could be hiding in plain sight. So, how do you know if your 1968 penny is the one? First, check the mint mark. Look closely for any doubling in the date or the words, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty." Examine Lincoln's face for strange shadowing or distortions. Use a magnifying glass, or better yet, consult a professional. And remember, coins that are uncleaned and in original condition always hold higher value in the collector's market. Over the years, the market for rare Lincoln pennies has grown tremendously. Auctions have seen bidding wars over pristine and rare variants. The excitement of turning a common coin into a valuable asset continues to fuel the passion of coin collectors everywhere. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone just now becoming curious, it's always worth taking a second look at those old coins you've stored away, and now, the moment you've been waiting for. Among all the 1968 Lincoln pennies, one particular version, featuring a rare error combined with superb uncirculated condition, was sold in a landmark sale. A coin that once could have bought a single piece of candy is now considered one of the most valuable pennies of its kind. This extraordinary coin fetched a jaw-dropping amount that most would never believe could come from a 1-cent piece. That's right, one rare 1968 Lincoln penny was valued and sold for an astonishing $155,000. So the next time you find yourself digging through an old coin jar, take a moment. Examine those pennies. Because one of them might just hold the key to a hidden fortune, and the story of your own incredible discovery. Top 2. Every now and then, something ordinary becomes extraordinary. A simple object, taken for granted in everyday life, suddenly reveals a story worth thousands, even hundreds of thousands, of dollars. In the vast world of American coinage, there is perhaps no better symbol of this surprise potential than the Lincoln 1-cent penny. And today, we're diving into one of its most mysterious and valuable versions, the 1973 Lincoln penny. A small coin with an incredible secret. Now think about this for a moment. How many times have you held a penny and thought nothing of it? Just a copper coin. Maybe you dropped it, maybe you threw it in a jar, or maybe it's lying somewhere in your car cup holder right now. But what if I told you that one specific 1973 Lincoln penny, just like those, was sold for a truly life-changing amount? This is not a myth. It's not just a collector's fantasy. This is a real story about real money, and a coin that once cost a single cent. Let's first take a step back and explore the origin. The Lincoln penny, first minted in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, was a revolutionary design for its time. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, a move that sparked debate but quickly became a national standard. Over the decades, the Lincoln penny has gone through several changes, from wheat reverse designs to the now famous Lincoln Memorial on the back, which dominated the design from 1959 all the way through 2008. The year 1973 was, on the surface, a normal year for coin production. Pennies that year were minted at Philadelphia and Denver, with a smaller number minted as proofs in San Francisco. Most people never gave these coins a second glance. After all, there were hundreds of millions of them produced. What could possibly make a 1973 penny stand out? That's where the magic of numismatics comes in. Because it's not just about the year or the mint, it's about the rare anomalies. It's about minting errors, rare metals, experimental strikes, and unique imperfections that transform a common coin into a rare collectible. Some 1973 Lincoln pennies were struck on the wrong type of metal planchet, meaning they weren't even supposed to exist the way they do. Others had doubling errors on the date or lettering, called double die varieties. Some even show extraordinary luster and detail because they were never circulated. Those are called mint state or uncirculated coins. Collectors go crazy over these rare finds. Why? Because they're the exception in a sea of the ordinary. Imagine millions of pennies looking exactly the same, and then there's one, just one, that has a small error that slipped past quality control. That one mistake becomes a jackpot. Not just for its rarity, but because it tells a story. It's a coin that made it through the minting process, got released into the world, and somehow survived in pristine or rare form for decades. Some 1973 Lincoln cents have been discovered with copper alloy inconsistencies, striking anomalies, or slight variations in their design elements. Others have been found struck off-center or with incomplete designs. These flaws, though accidental, are highly prized in the coin collecting community. And when paired with outstanding condition, say, a grading of MS 67 or higher on the Sheldon scale, they can fetch staggering prices at auctions. Of course, condition matters enormously. Most coins in your pocket right now are what collectors call circulated. They've been used, worn down, scratched, dulled. But when a coin is preserved in a collection, a roll, or in a forgotten place, untouched by time, it holds its full detail, its original shine, and most importantly, its value. Collectors and investors alike search far and wide for these pristine versions, and that brings us to the true highlight of today's story. One specific 1973 Lincoln 1-cent penny, uncirculated, flawless in condition, and featuring a rare mint error, was appraised and eventually sold for a price that defies all logic. A penny, a coin that could so easily have gone unnoticed, that could have been tossed in a fountain or dropped between couch cushions, ended up changing hands for a price most of us would never expect. So if you've got a jar of old coins, or you happen to come across a 1973 penny in a drawer or an old purse, don't dismiss it too quickly. Look at the date. Look closely at the surface. Does the lettering look unusual? Is the strike perfectly centered? Is the detail sharp? And most importantly, does it still shine like the day it was minted? You never know what treasure you might be holding, because one of those coins, yes, one single 1973 Lincoln penny, was once sold to a collector for a jaw-dropping, unbelievable amount. A value that takes this humble coin and elevates it to something legendary. That penny was sold for a breathtaking $115,000, let that sink in. A coin worth 1 cent. Now worth $115,000. That's the kind of story that keeps the coin collecting world buzzing, and it might just happen to you next. Top 3. The Lincoln penny is something almost every American has held in their hand. It's small, it's copper, and most people hardly give it a second thought. But hidden among these tiny coins is a world full of history, mystery, and value, and sometimes, shocking value. One specific year, often overlooked by both collectors and the general public, holds one of the most fascinating stories in coin collecting history. That year is 1975. And the coin in question? The 1975 Lincoln 1-cent penny. Now, before you dismiss that old penny lying in your drawer or resting quietly in a coin jar, you should know this: that tiny coin might be worth more than most cars, more than most salaries, and possibly more than your current bank account. Yes, we're talking about a coin that cost only 1 cent to make, but due to rare qualities and collector demand, one version of it was sold for a truly unbelievable sum. But more on that later. Let's start by setting the stage. The 1970s were a time of economic struggle and transition in the United States. Inflation was rising, the Vietnam War was winding down, and the nation's focus was shifting toward conservation and economic stability. Even the U.S. Mint was feeling the pressure, trying to cut costs and make coin production more efficient. Yet despite all the change and economic noise, the Lincoln penny quietly continued its journey, minted year after year since 1909. The 1975 version might look like any other, but beneath the surface lies a story worth telling. The design of the 1975 penny features the iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, created by Victor D. Brenner. This design had already been in use for more than 6 decades by that point. On the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial stands proudly, a tribute to one of the most revered figures in American history. What many don't realize is that during this time, small changes, minting quirks, and unexpected errors began to slip into circulation, and that's where the real excitement begins. So, what exactly makes a 1975 Lincoln penny valuable? First, let's talk about rarity. While millions of these coins were minted in Philadelphia and Denver, there are rare varieties and errors that set some apart from the rest. Coins with double dies, where the design was struck twice and misaligned, show up with noticeable distortions in the text or on Lincoln's features. These coins are like winning lottery tickets in the coin world. Then there are off-center strikes, coins made on the wrong type of metal planchets, or even those with missing elements like dates or mint marks. These errors can turn a regular coin into a collector's dream, but the value of a 1975 penny isn't always just about errors. It's also about condition. The world of coin grading is incredibly precise. Coins are examined under magnification and rated on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, flawless specimen. The higher the grade, the higher the price. And let's be honest, most coins that have been in circulation for years are scratched, faded, or damaged. That's why finding a 1975 penny in mint condition, with full luster and no visible wear, is already rare. Combine that with a unique error or variation, and you have a serious contender for high value. Many of the most valuable coins in history weren't found in museums or auction houses. They were discovered in pocket change, in old jars, in boxes of coins passed down through generations. That's the beautiful thing about coin collecting. The next big find could be sitting quietly in your own home, waiting for the right person to look closely enough. Let's not forget that in the mid-1970s, the United States Mint was experimenting behind the scenes. They were preparing for a big change coming in 1976, the nation's bicentennial celebration. There was talk of altering coin compositions, changing reverse designs, and updating minting techniques. Though the 1975 Lincoln penny doesn't reflect any obvious design shifts, some believe that experimental coins or transitionals from that period may have accidentally entered circulation. These unusual coins could be among the rarest in existence, silently hiding among the ordinary. So how do you know if your 1975 penny is valuable? Start by examining it under a magnifying glass. Look closely at the date and lettering. Is there any doubling? Check for mint marks. Is it from Denver, marked with a small d, or from Philadelphia, which typically has no mark? Is the strike clean and sharp? Does the coin look unusually bright or different in color? Is it perfectly centered, or a little off-kilter? Every detail matters, and remember, never clean a coin. That might sound strange, but collectors prize originality. A coin that's been scrubbed, polished, or tampered with loses significant value. If you think you've found something special, have it evaluated by a professional grader or appraiser before doing anything else. Over the years, rare coins have consistently outperformed expectations at auctions. As more collectors enter the hobby and more people learn about these hidden treasures, prices continue to climb. And the demand for unique or high-grade Lincoln pennies is only growing stronger. Now, after all this talk of rarity, history, and value, you might be wondering just how high the price can go. Is it really possible for a coin that says 1 cent to be worth tens of thousands of dollars? The answer, without a doubt, is yes. One particular 1975 Lincoln penny, due to its flawless condition, unusual mint characteristics, and sheer rarity, shocked the numismatic world when it appeared at a major auction. Collectors fought hard to own this tiny piece of American history. It wasn't about the face value, it was about what the coin represented, the thrill of discovery, the beauty of preservation, and the power of history packed into a single, copper-colored disc. And when the final gavel fell, that single 1975 Lincoln penny had sold for a staggering $100,000. So before you dismiss that old penny in your kitchen drawer, remember this: it may be more than just a coin. It could be a hidden treasure, a link to history, and maybe even your ticket to an unexpected fortune. Top 4. Sometimes the most valuable treasures come in the smallest forms, and often, they're hiding in plain sight. A perfect example of this is a simple, everyday coin, the Lincoln 1-cent penny. Most of us have seen thousands of them in our lifetimes. They're tossed in pockets, dropped under car seats, or saved in glass jars for years without a second thought. But what if we told you that one very specific Lincoln penny from the year 1977 is worth far more than anyone could imagine? What if that 1-cent coin you're holding could be the key to a small fortune? This is not just a collector's fantasy. This is the story of the 1977 Lincoln penny, a coin that has stunned experts, fascinated hobbyists, and changed the lives of those lucky enough to recognize its true value. So, grab your magnifying glass, because by the end of this video, you might be looking at your pennies a whole lot differently. To understand the significance of the 1977 penny, we need to take a look back. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor D. Brenner, it was revolutionary for being the first regular-issue U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. Over the years, the design has evolved, but the obverse, Lincoln's profile, has remained nearly unchanged. By 1977, the coin had been in circulation for almost 7 decades and was an icon of American coinage. Now, on the surface, the 1977 Lincoln penny may appear very ordinary. Produced at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, it was struck by the millions. In fact, over 4.4 billion were minted that year. But as coin collectors know, it only takes one variation, one small error, or one perfect strike to turn a mass-produced coin into a rare and highly sought-after gem. What makes some 1977 Lincoln pennies worth so much? There are a few key factors. The first is rarity due to minting errors. Sometimes, coins are struck more than once, creating a doubling effect on the lettering or the numbers. These are called double die coins, and collectors go wild for them. A 1977 penny with a double die obverse can show clear doubling in the date, in the word liberty, or in the phrase, "In God we trust." These mistakes were accidental, but today they're considered incredibly valuable. Another factor is off-metal errors, which occur when a penny is mistakenly struck on the wrong planchet, the blank metal disc used to create a coin. For example, a 1977 penny might have been accidentally struck on a dime planchet, giving it a lighter weight and different appearance. These minting mistakes are extremely rare, and when authenticated, they are worth serious money. Let's not forget about strike quality and coin condition. Most pennies have been passed from person to person, worn down, scraped, or tarnished by the environment. But a tiny number of 1977 pennies exist in what is known as mint state condition. These coins have never been used and remain in pristine form, sharp detail, shiny surface, no scratches or blemishes. The highest quality coins are graded on the Sheldon scale, and anything in the MS-67 to MS-70 range can command eye-watering prices at auction. There's also a special category of coins called proof coins, which are struck using specially polished dies on high-quality blanks. Though these are typically not released into circulation, a few rare proof-like 1977 pennies have surfaced, showing unusually crisp details and mirror-like surfaces. These coins, especially when they feature errors or varieties, are among the most prized by collectors. So how do you find out if your 1977 penny is valuable? First, examine it under good light. Look closely at the date, the mint mark. Top 5. If you've ever held a penny between your fingers, you've probably never given it much thought. Just a small copper coin, right? Toss it in a jar, use it for exact change, or maybe leave it behind because it doesn't seem worth the space in your pocket. But what if I told you that one of those ordinary pennies, one struck in the year 1978, could actually be the key to a small fortune? Yes, you heard that right. A coin you may have overlooked dozens of times before could be a hidden treasure. It's not a fantasy. It's not a collector's daydream. It's a real possibility. And today, we're going to take a deep dive into the fascinating world of the 1978 Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that has surprised experts, stunned collectors, and in one special case, sold for an amount you won't believe. Let's start at the beginning. The Lincoln cent is no stranger to American pockets. Introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person. Victor D. Brenner's portrait of Lincoln became one of the most iconic coin designs in U.S. history, and it has endured on the obverse ever since. By 1978, the Lincoln penny had already undergone several transformations, from its original wheat ears on the reverse to the Lincoln Memorial design that had been used since 1959. And while the basic appearance remained consistent, not every coin was created equal. The U.S. Mint struck billions of pennies in 1978, over 5.5 billion from the Philadelphia Mint and more than 4.2 billion from the Denver Mint. At a glance, it was just another year of mass production. But buried in that mountain of copper are some true rarities. So how does a penny become valuable? It usually comes down to three things: rarity, condition, and minting errors. And the 1978 penny has examples of all three. Let's begin with mint errors. These are accidental, unintended variations that occur during the coin-making process, and they're exactly what serious collectors are hunting for. In 1978, a number of pennies were found to have been struck off-center, which means the coin design doesn't sit perfectly aligned. Others were discovered with double dies, where the coin's lettering or date was struck twice, creating a ghost-like duplication. Errors like these instantly elevate a penny's value, especially when the mistake is dramatic and easy to see with the naked eye. There are also more exotic errors, like a penny being struck on the wrong type of metal planchet. Occasionally, a coin will be mistakenly stamped on a blank meant for a foreign coin, a dime, or even a steel blank. These rare off-metal strikes are extremely valuable and often one of a kind. In the world of numismatics, such a mistake can make the difference between a penny being worth 1 cent, or thousands. Now let's talk about condition. Most coins pass through countless hands. They sit in registers, fall on the ground, and get scratched, dented, and worn down over the years. But some lucky few manage to escape the usual wear and tear. Maybe they were pulled from circulation early, tucked away in a roll, or stored in a collection where they stayed untouched for decades. These uncirculated coins, known as mint state, are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. A 1978 penny graded MS 65 or higher is already considered desirable. But when you find one at MS 67 or better, especially with sharp detail and full luster, you're looking at a truly elite specimen. And then, there's the collector demand. The 1970s are a popular decade for collectors, especially those building full Lincoln cent collections. Because of this, any unusual or high-grade 1978 penny becomes even more desirable, not just for the value of the metal or the rarity of the strike, but because collectors are constantly competing to complete their perfect set. But the best part? You don't need to be a professional coin dealer to find one. Coins like these have been discovered in the most unexpected places, in old jars, between couch cushions, inside piggy banks, or even in change from a vending machine. You never know where one might turn up. That's the thrill of it. Every penny you come across could be holding a secret. The trick is knowing what to look for. So how do you spot a valuable 1978 penny? Start by checking the mint mark. A D below the date means it was struck in Denver, while a coin with no mint mark was made in Philadelphia. Look closely at the text and numbers. Is anything doubled? Is the coin off-center? Is the color or size unusual? A digital scale can also help. A typical 1978 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. If the weight is significantly different, you may have an error coin. And don't forget about shine. A coin that still glows with its original copper luster is a strong sign it's in better than average condition. Once you find a penny you think might be special, your next step should be to have it evaluated by a professional grading service. Companies like PCGS or NGC can certify and grade your coin, which not only protects it but can also significantly increase its value when it comes time to sell. And if it turns out you really do have a high-grade error coin, well, you could be in for a very big payday. The coin world is full of surprises. What seems worthless to most can be priceless to a few. And the beauty of it is that these coins are still out there. They haven't all been found. They haven't all been locked away in vaults. One of them might be in your house right now, or even in your pocket, because not long ago, one seemingly ordinary 1978 Lincoln penny, preserved in near-perfect condition and struck with a rare minting flaw, made headlines in the collector community. It passed through the hands of a sharp-eyed enthusiast, was graded and authenticated, and eventually sold at a major coin auction for an astonishing sum. That single penny, 1 cent by face value, was sold for a total of $85,000. Yes. $85,000. For a penny. So the next time you're sorting through your change, take a closer look. The difference between a common coin and a life-changing find could be just one small detail, and one big surprise. Top 6. Take a moment to imagine this. You're digging through an old jar of change. Maybe it's been sitting on a shelf for years. You scoop up a handful of pennies, absent-mindedly looking through them. Most are dull, worn, and ordinary. But what if one of those pennies, that small, copper coin you've probably ignored for years, could actually be worth a fortune? This is not a fairy tale. This is a real possibility when it comes to the 1979 Lincoln 1-cent penny. A coin that most people overlook, yet in rare cases, can command staggering prices. This is one of those hidden treasures of American coinage, a coin so familiar, yet so mysterious, that collectors have spent decades searching for the rarest versions. And today, we're going to take you deep into the story of the 1979 Lincoln penny, a story of rarity, error, condition, and unexpected value. Let's begin with the basics. The Lincoln penny has been in production since 1909, originally introduced to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. Over the years, the design has become an iconic part of American history. By 1979, the obverse side still featured Victor D. Brenner's classic profile of Lincoln, while the reverse displayed the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of strength, unity, and democracy. In 1979, the U.S. Mint struck these pennies at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. You can identify them by the small letter under the date, D for Denver, S for San Francisco, and if there's no mint mark, that means it was minted in Philadelphia. The total number of pennies produced in 1979 was massive, over 10 billion coins across all mints. That sheer number might make you think every 1979 penny is common. But in reality, that couldn't be further from the truth. What makes a 1979 Lincoln penny valuable has little to do with how many were made, and everything to do with what went wrong during the minting process, or what went unusually right. Let's talk about mint errors. These are rare mistakes that occur during production, like a coin being struck off-center, struck multiple times, or even struck on the wrong type of metal planchet. A particularly prized error is the double die obverse, where the coin was struck twice slightly out of alignment. This results in visible doubling in the text, most often seen in God We Trust, or the date itself. These errors are incredibly rare, and collectors will pay thousands for the right example, especially if it's still in high grade. Another fascinating variation is when a penny is struck on a foreign or transitional planchet, meaning the coin has the design of a penny but the metal composition or weight of something entirely different. These anomalies are sometimes not discovered until years after release. When one is authenticated, it becomes a prized find among collectors. The market value of these oddities can be unpredictable, and in the best cases, it can be jaw-dropping. But beyond errors, there's another major factor that can elevate the value of a 1979 penny: condition. Most pennies in circulation are worn down. Their surfaces are dull, the edges are smooth, and fine details have faded away from years of handling. But a small number were preserved, whether by collectors or just by chance, and remain in mint state. These coins are graded using the Sheldon scale, which runs from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS-65 or higher is already considered excellent. But a 1979 penny graded at MS-67 or MS-68 is incredibly rare, and extremely valuable, and let's not forget about proof coins. These are specially made at the San Francisco Mint, with extra care given to every detail. They have mirror-like backgrounds, sharper design features, and are struck multiple times to ensure a flawless finish. Most proof coins are sold in collector sets, but occasionally, one may end up separated from its set and discovered by surprise. If a proof 1979 penny has an unusual feature, like a double die or a unique mint mark, it can be worth far more than anyone would expect. Even small details can make a difference. A misplaced mint mark, a slightly rotated die, or even a subtle variation in the strike can turn an ordinary penny into a rare and valuable collectible. That's why coin enthusiasts examine every millimeter of these coins with magnifying glasses, microscopes, and a whole lot of patience. Because every once in a while, one coin turns out to be something extraordinary. So how do you find out if your 1979 penny is valuable? Start by carefully examining the date and mint mark. Is everything crisp and clear? Are there signs of doubling? Next, check the weight. A standard 1979 penny should weigh around 3.11 grams. If your coin is significantly lighter or heavier, it could be an error coin struck on a wrong planchet. Then, look at the edges and surfaces. Does it look unusually sharp, like it was just minted yesterday? That might be a sign of a high-grade uncirculated piece, and remember, never clean your coin. It might be tempting to make it shine, but cleaning a coin can destroy its value. Collectors prize originality and untouched surfaces. If you think you have something special, send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They'll authenticate, grade, and seal the coin, helping you determine its true market value. Over the years, more and more collectors have turned their attention to pennies. Once considered the most basic of coins, the Lincoln cent has become one of the most fascinating and dynamic areas of numismatics. And the 1979 penny, thanks to a handful of remarkable examples, has proven that even a coin worth 1 cent can be worth looking at twice, or maybe even 3 times. So, what's the highest a 1979 Lincoln penny has ever sold for? Is it really possible for a small copper coin from over 4 decades ago to be worth more than a car, more than college tuition, or even more than some people's annual income? Yes, absolutely, because one particular 1979 Lincoln penny, thanks to a perfect combination of rarity, error, and immaculate condition, was sold at auction for an astonishing $80,000, and it's still out there. In collections, in boxes, in jars, or maybe even in your own home. So the next time you come across a penny from 1979, don't just glance and toss it aside. Look closer. Because sometimes, the smallest coins carry the biggest surprises. Top 7. Imagine holding a tiny piece of metal in your hand. It weighs almost nothing, it's worth just a single cent on paper, and yet, it might just be one of the rarest treasures in your entire house. Sounds unbelievable, right? But what if I told you that a coin you probably walked past, maybe even thrown away without thinking, could actually be worth more than some cars, more than some people's annual salary? Welcome to the fascinating world of the 1982 Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that most people think is common, but which in certain rare forms, has stunned collectors and experts alike. This isn't just a story about old coins. This is a story about transition, mystery, errors, and value. A story that might make you take a second look at the change in your pocket. Now, let's go back to 1982, a year of big change, not just for the country, but for the humble penny itself. Up to that point, Lincoln cents had been made mostly of copper, 95% copper, in fact, and 5% zinc. But copper wasn't cheap anymore. Rising metal prices meant it was costing the US Mint more than 1 cent to make a 1-cent coin. That didn't make economic sense. So, in 1982, the Mint made a bold decision. They changed the composition of the penny. Instead of copper, pennies would now be made primarily of zinc, with only a thin copper coating to maintain the same color. This change had never been done in the middle of a minting year before. And as a result, 1982 became one of the most complex and collectible years in Lincoln cent history. Here's where things get really interesting. Because of this mid-year switch, there are actually 7 different types of 1982 pennies. That's right, 7. Some were made of copper, some were made of zinc. Some have small dates, and some have large dates. Some came from Denver, and some came from Philadelphia. For coin collectors, that makes 1982 an absolute treasure hunt. Let's break it down. The 2 main types of 1982 pennies are based on their metal content. The original copper cents weigh about 3.11 grams, while the new zinc pennies weigh about 2.5 grams. They look almost identical to the naked eye, but a scale reveals the truth. And then there's the size of the date. Early in the year, the Mint used one size of the date digits, and later they switched to a slightly larger version. So now you've got small date copper, large date copper, small date zinc, large date zinc, and combinations of those from 2 different mints. It's a complicated puzzle, and collectors love puzzles, but that's not where the story ends. Because every time there's a change in materials, machines, or processes at the Mint, the chances for errors go up. And some of those errors are exactly what make the 1982 penny one of the most searched for coins in circulation today. One of the most famous and desirable varieties is the 1982 D small date penny made from copper. Why? Because according to the official Mint records, Denver should have only struck small date pennies in zinc, not copper. And yet, a few copper versions have been discovered. This wasn't supposed to happen. But it did. And when a coin exists that shouldn't, it instantly becomes a holy grail for collectors. Then there are the double die errors, where the coin is struck more than once slightly out of alignment. These are easy to spot with a magnifying glass. Look for ghost-like doubling in the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty." There are also off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't properly aligned under the press, and you get a lopsided design. Other errors include missing mint marks or coins struck on the wrong planchet entirely. These kinds of coins, especially from a transition year like 1982, can be worth big money, and we can't forget about condition. Most coins have been through a lot by now. They've been in and out of pockets, registers, piggy banks, and maybe even run through the laundry once or twice. But every so often, a 1982 penny surfaces that's in near perfect condition, never circulated, still shining with that original luster, and free from nicks or scratches. These coins are called mint state or MS coins, and the best of them can be graded as high as MS67 or MS68. Coins that rare and that perfect don't just look beautiful, they attract intense bidding at auctions. Why? Because collectors want them. They want the full set. They want the highest grade. And they're willing to pay top dollar to get it. So, how do you know if the penny in your drawer or your piggy bank is special? Start with a simple test: weigh it. If your 1982 penny weighs 3.11 grams,